I would have much rather been here, but wait, a couple people coming in. This is great. So what we're going to do is start off by, this is coming up, this opportunity. Join the biggest hour for Earth. Earth Hour. Give an hour for Earth by spending 60 minutes doing something, anything positive for our planet. Happens on March 25th. That's this weekend. It's Saturday, March 25th at 8:30, wherever our local time is. This is happening all around the world. So I'm going to show you a quick video that they put together for this Earth Hour. Ben has it for us.
Shine spotlight on the issues of climate change and nature loss. We've reached over 190 countries and territories, and millions of people around the globe, from Asia and Africa, to North and South America, Oceania and Europe, to Antarctica. We've sparked conversations in English, Portuguese, Espanol, and French. We've generated hundreds of thousands of media articles and billions of impressions online. But 2023 must be a year of change. In order to reach our 2030 nature positive goal, we need more people, more than ever. We need individuals, businesses, communities, towns and cities, entire nations to join in with Earth Hour, to play their part, to create the biggest tower for Earth. 60 minutes of global unity in support and celebration of our planet. As landmarks and homes across the planet switch off, we want everyone to take a break from their routine and everyday distractions and spend 60 minutes doing something positive for our planet, revitalizing the power of the hour for a nature-positive world. In support of this renewed urgency, we're renewing our identity. The 60+ logo made its mark. But with our 2030 goal getting closer, we're evolving it with a new sense of purpose and urgency. The clock is ticking, and our new flip clock logo brings focus to the hour, whilst also marking the beginning of change towards the biggest hour for Earth, and underlining the need for urgent action. This clock imagery is carried through to our new visual identity, with a color palette and photography that are celebratory and put people first. Globally recognizable, truly distinctive, uniquely ownable. We're breathing new life into Earth Hour, into our work, and into our message. A message that must resonate in our communities, across our nations, and around the world. Together, let's create the biggest tower for Earth.
So the idea is that we're turning off everything that uses power during that time, and then celebrating Earth, celebrating our ideas. So it's a good symbol of solidarity that we're working with all these other people from around the world to do this. It's a catalyst for change. It's harnessing the power of the crowd, right? So what it's saying, the underlying message of that, the message just came out for that international panel on climate change. The final part of their report just came out that said we need to make change before 2030 if we're going to make change. So we're on this timeline of urgency. So what are we going to do? This Earth Hour is just one small possibility of things we can do and join in with. So if any of you choose to celebrate the Earth Hour, send me some pictures. I'd love to see how you're celebrating, and we can be part of this community too. So we have this coming up, field trip, Sunday, April 16th. Make sure that's in your calendar. You'll be getting more details from your TA about what time you'll be going that day. For now, just hold the day, and that's when we'll be gathering at Shavers Creek in Stone Valley, going for an adventure. So, field trip. All right. And then for today, where we're going to start, I'd like you to reflect for a moment there in your journal. Make a note for yourself. What are your top 3 priorities for today? Your top 3 priorities for today. And once you have those, you can talk with your neighbor a minute, compare your priorities. To sort of just hold on to those ideas, your little list of priorities there today. And we're going to come back around to that in just a little bit, but we'll do some stuff and then we'll reflect again on those priorities. So a lot of the things that I bring to class are things that I've taken, I've been doing this for a little while, and so I think about them in a lot of different angles, a lot of different ways as I continue to talk to students or talk to other people, friends and neighbors and people in the science field or people in all kinds of different areas of study. I've sort of collected these ideas, and all of that comes to shape how I do this class, right? And for me, choosing my own story has been a very important part, a very powerful part of what has shaped this class and then also just shaped my whole life. So stories are a way that we get influenced, right? Stories, they affect our lives. They affect how we feel. They affect how we question things. They affect how we connect. And so with that in mind, listen to this story. It's a story told by an Israeli man. He was in the Israeli Defense Force, and his commander took him to the beach one day and he said, "Eliav, pick up 2 handfuls of sand." And so Eliav did as he was told, and he said, "Keep one hand open and clench the other hand tightly, as tight as he can." So again, Eliav did as he was told. And then the commander said, "Open the clenched hand and see which hand has more sand in it now." And so again, Eliav did as he's told. And he found that the open hand had more sand than the one that he had clenched tightly. So in trying to hold on to the sand, sometimes we squeeze it out. So this is a parable. It's a story that teaches us by symbolism. So what does the clenched hand and the sand in there represent? For me, it represents that, sometimes a closed hand is a better option. I'm going to hold on tightly to everything that's dear to me, my ideas and my beliefs. And yet, and with that clenched hand, I can fight off any other things that come my way. And yet, a clenched hand it can't receive anything. There's no space there to take anything else in. And the open hand is one that allows things to come and go and change. It allows more to fill or some things to fall away that I don't need anymore. So the open hand and the closed hand, what are your hands? How are you feeling about your ideas and your beliefs? Is it open or is it closed? It's just something to consider. What is it that you're holding on tightly to? A belief system or beliefs about the world, beliefs about what's normal, assumptions and definitions. And so today we're going to sort of play with ideas, and I ask you to hold your hands as open as possible for where we're going today. So this is where we've been, right? This is where we were last week. A cough is a symptom, right? That's what I was struggling with. So many problems that can cause the cough. A tickle in the throat can be so simple, causing a cough. Inhaling something irritating, that could be asthma, COVID, flu, lung cancer, pneumonia, could be really serious. So the symptom is the cough. The problem is whatever the ailment is, but then what's causing the ailment? Is it down here? Is it a bacteria or a virus, a disease? Is it genetics or pollutants? So we are looking at Earth through this lens of symptoms and problems and causes. So we've looked at this, and these are the symptoms. What is the problem? Right? During Autumn's class about chemicals, and during Joel's class about shelter, the overarching topic of separation comes up. Over the course of time, we have become disconnected. After many generations and many innovations, we've become disconnected from the resources that we're using. So that's the problem. We're disconnected. So what's causing then the problem? What's causing this disconnect? And today, I'd like to say that this separation from self, separation from each other, separation from Earth, the ecocide that we're experiencing right now, is because of our story. So I'd like you to write this down. The story that our culture has been teaching has created separation. That's my hypothesis for today. And so when I say hypothesis, that takes us all the way back to the beginning of the semester when we were talking about the scientific method, right? So I've observed some things, I've questioned some things, and now I have this hypothesis that our culture is teaching us things, ways of separation. So again, playing with ideas. So first of all, what is culture? Culture is this. Culture is made up of so many different things. It's the integrated pattern of human knowledge and belief and behavior that allows us to learn things from people and also to transmit, to teach things to other people, right? Particularly to generations. We're learning from older generations, and then we're teaching the younger generations, things that get passed along. the characteristics of everyday life, jokes and celebrations and folk art. These are things that shape our everyday world. It's also the customary beliefs. That could be the religion. That could be the way that we believe about, medical cures. Things that we do here are very different than some places in other parts of the world. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some stories that have shaped our American culture. So we're going to go back in time. We're going to go all the way back here, May 4th, 1493, the year after Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Pope Alexander VI offered a spiritual validation for European conquest. So this was sending other Europeans out around the world to claim land for countries in Europe. So he said this: "In our times, especially the Catholic faith and the Christian religion be exalted and be everywhere increased and spread, that the health of souls be cared for, and that barbarous nations be overthrown and brought to the faith itself." So at the foundation of this doctrine, 1493, was that there's a narrative of Christian purity and supremacy that negated the value and the worth of everything else, anybody who wasn't in the Christian faith. And it permitted European Christians to assume their own supremacy and privilege. And so the supremacy went something like this: God blessed them and said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea and the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth." So this is part of our story, right? Here in America, because most of those coming to conquest this land were of this Christian faith. So remember that the Bible was inspired by God, written by humans, sprang forth from a culture that was very different. That was, back in year BC, 30 BC. And now we move forward in time, 1,500 years, and this is still what's determining the future of the land. So we think about this, the manifest destiny. If you remember learning about this in high school, the story that Americans had a virtue-bound biblical duty to colonize the West. And the West looked like this, right? There was the Louisiana Purchase, this giant green blob of land. So the United States government, under President Jefferson, purchased this territory of Louisiana from the French in 1803. So this was over 300 years after that declaration of you should conquest, right? You should conquer all of this. Manifest destiny was a phrase coined by a newspaper editor in 1845. The idea that the United States is destined by God to expand dominion and spread democracy and capitalism across the North American continent. What the underlying message of this is the spread of slavery across this country. The westward expansion of slavery was one of the most dynamic economic and social processes going on in this country. The westward expansion carried slavery down into the Southwest, Mississippi and Alabama, crossing the Mississippi River into Louisiana. The belief was without slavery you could not have civilization, they said. So this is how people were treated, right? The dark side of manifest destiny revealed that the white man's belief that his settlement and land was preordained. We were determined to do this. We were chosen to do this. So in this one story, we're talking about the movement of slavery. And what about all the people that already freaking lived here? Right? This map looks pretty plain, but then this is the map of all of the native tribes that lived across this country. This was already somebody's place. In 1803, we bought it from the French. Well, the French, they claimed this big space of land where all these other people, 60 million indigenous people, were already living here. But by the time, about 54 million of those native people died. About 90% died between 1492, the landing of Columbus, and 1900, either due to the death at the hands of the white men or due to the viruses that the white men brought with them. Smallpox and measles and influenza. These native people were already struggling when Manifest Destiny happened. So how is it that we can what's the justification for just coming in and taking over places where people already were? But these people were not, these were people that were not cultured. These people needed Christianity is what they believed. So living within a different story. Their story was that they believed that they belonged to Earth, that they're part of Earth, that they could not own property because property is its own being. And yet people came in and took over. There were folks in the government that didn't agree with Manifest Destiny, Grover Cleveland and Andrew Carnegie and Mark Twain. It became a disputed philosophy over time, but by then it was too late. They were unable to see that these people lived in another story, and it's just as valid as the story that the Europeans were carrying. They took these people and put them in the Native American boarding schools, created cultural genocide. All those things about culture that were up on the board, they took away their beliefs, they cut their hair. It's a really sacrilegious thing to do in the Native culture. They took away that integrated pattern of human knowledge and behaviors. They weren't allowed to dance. They weren't allowed to be themselves. They were not allowed to speak their languages. They killed the culture. So the model of the Carlisle Indian School right here in Pennsylvania was kill the Indian to save the man. There were 519 of these schools in the United States and 126 of them in Canada. Conquering these native people, trapping them in schools that would kill their culture, was success for the people that were involved in this. So different iterations. This is only one of these stories. Different iterations of this have been true for many years, minoritizing people based on their sex, their religion, their color, their beliefs, all of their different ways of being. People have been minimized. So success was measured when groups get overpowered. So this is our story. This is an underlying story of our place. It's a hard story to hear. And so how does this translate? Maybe or maybe not, you'll see it connect to this story. So what is our story today? The way that I'm going to get at that a little bit is to ask you this. What does it mean to be a success? So fill this out 3 times there in your journal. To be successful, I need to, what? So success, what does that look like? Why don't you talk with your neighbor for a minute? What's on your success list? To be successful, I need to what?